So my name is Sabrina Habib, and I am the co-founder and CEO at Kidogo. Kidogo comes from the proverb "Chanzo cha makubwa ni kidogo," which means all great things start small. And if we want to have a thriving community, a thriving economy, a thriving country, then we need to start by investing in the youngest generation. But where are the young ones? The very, very small ones, the 0 to 3-year-olds. They're not yet in school. We may see them at health facilities once in a while, but where are they? And in our urban informal settlements, mainly they are in childcare centers. They are in women's homes, centers, or based out of schools, and they are there being taken care of. But the quality at many of these centers is not very good. You have children who are there for 8, 10 hours of the day. They're not receiving any learning, any stimulation. They have nothing to play with. Sometimes they get food, sometimes they don't. And they sit idle for all of that time. And what happens to those children? Those children, because 80% of brain development happens in the first 3 years of life, those children go on to school with cognitive delays, language delays, physical delays. They're never able to succeed fully. They then grow up into adults, and they don't get good jobs. They can't function properly because they didn't get the investments in their early years, and they continue this intergenerational cycle of poverty. But if we provide safe, stimulating, nutritious experiences for children in their first 1,000 days, we can transform the trajectory of these children's lives. And in doing so, we can transform the trajectory of the communities and of the country as a whole. And that is what Kidogo is all about. The idea of Kidogo started more than 10 years ago in Mlolongo when I stumbled across an informal daycare. There was a woman running a daycare out of her own home. There was no ventilation, no lighting, and in the darkness I nearly stepped on a child. And horrified, I picked up that child and saw babies everywhere, but not making a sound. And if you've ever been with babies, even 1 or 2 who are awake, they're always making some type of sound. These babies had learned not to cry anymore because they were so severely neglected. Or in some cases, they were even given Piriton or changaa just to keep them hushed through the day. This is the reality of many of the children in our communities, but we do not see it because it's hidden in the shadows. And what we're doing today is celebrating the 10th anniversary of Kidogo, celebrating our mamapreneurs, our papapreneurs, and putting childcare in the spotlight. And as we heard from Madam Florence, childcare is being discussed at the very highest levels of government with the Office of the President. And we're excited to work alongside our partners with the Office of the President and our government partners from the county, sub-county, and ward levels to make childcare work for everyone, for children, for mothers, to give them a peace of mind knowing that they can work, and for our mamapreneurs, where they can earn a dignified livelihood by doing this work. Our current network is 2,000 mamapreneurs directly reaching 50,000 children. So that means 50,000 children who are receiving a safe, stimulating, nutritious experience 5-6 days a week for 8 to 9 months for their first 3 to 4 to 5 years of life. Meaning 50,000 mothers who are able to work with peace of mind knowing that their children are safe. Our goal over the next 5 years is to expand to 50,000 mamapreneurs, reaching 1 million children. Imagine the impact of 1 million children who have gotten a bright start to life, who go up and be the citizens of our country, who become the future doctors and artists and musicians and maybe even the next president of this country. That is our plan. Our plan is to make childcare a norm, so that no mother has to make a decision of where to leave her young child when she has to go to work for the day. I stood on the stage and looked around and saw the room full of mamapreneurs, all of whom are working day in, day out to provide childcare services in their community. And when we started Kidogo, we started with 2 centers. Our first gala had 5 mamapreneurs. Today we have 2,000. to see the growth of Kidogo, to see that this is no longer just a vision but a reality, and to see our government partners there talking about Kidogo and talking about childcare. More importantly, it is beyond the organization, it is about the issue of childcare. To see it being talked about at the highest levels of government, there are no words to describe the feeling of that. And yet, I also feel like there's much more work to be done. And so there's a celebration, and I hope you will all stay to celebrate with our mamapreneurs. But also, it's more opportunities to roll up our sleeves and get the work done. So the word mamapreneur is actually very intentional. We think that in order to run a good childcare center, you need to have the nurturing, loving qualities of a mama. But you also have to be a problem solver, a hustler, have those skill sets of an entrepreneur. And so when we look for our daycare operators, we look for people that have both the love for children and the ability to care for children in a way that it is just like their own, but also the ability to think of this as a micro-business, because it is the sustainability of these micro-businesses that will allow them to continue to do this work year in and year out. And so a mamapreneur is a very, very special term and a title given to each of the women that you saw in the room today. The mamapreneur program, what Kidogo does, it's 3 steps. We find daycares who are running daycares out of their own home or a standalone center or part of a school. But in many cases, they've got the love, but have never been trained on this. There's no way to be trained and certified as a child care provider. And so step 2 is we do that. We do the upskilling. We train, we mentor, we coach, and we connect mamapreneurs to other communities and to other mamapreneurs within their community, so that they can provide that peer-to-peer accountability. And then the third is that we quality assure. And so daycares look very different, but the one thing that is common across all of them is the quality standards. And these are standards that we think are the non-negotiable to run safe spaces for children. In many times you think about the facility, you think about the infrastructure, but quality is often about the experience that happens every single day, the interaction that happens between the child and the caregiver. And so there are non-negotiable quality standards that you must maintain in order to be a mamapreneur. And what our hope is that we can work closely with the government to create quality standards for the sector, so that childcare centers, if you send your child to a childcare center, you know it is of a certain level of quality. To our government, first we say thank you for the partnership over the last 10 years. And we say let's continue. Let's continue to work together to make childcare a norm in Kenyan society. Let us work together to make childcare an election issue. Next election, I would love to see our mamapreneurs, our mothers across the country saying, what will you do for childcare? Because until we value childcare as a necessary component of a thriving economy, it'll continue to be done in the shadows. But once we value it, and we quantify it, and we bring it into the spotlight, like through events like today, we will make sure that childcare is, again, this norm. And we need the government to help us get there. If we're going to reach 1 million children, we need the government to help us get there. So we want to work closely together to work on licenses, quality standards, and financing for the childcare sector. The biggest achievement is growing from an idea to now the largest childcare network in the country. The achievement is every child that has passed through a Kidogo center and who no longer has to be scared of coming in, not knowing if they're going to get food that day, or knowing if they will be beaten for misbehaving. Kidogo practices positive discipline. It is an oasis for young children to thrive. And so every child that is then able to go on and succeed in school. We have been around for 10 years now, so some of those that have gone on and are in secondary school are now at the top of their class, and it is something that we are proud of. We're proud of putting this on the agenda where it is being discussed at the highest levels of the